Welcome to What's Your Edge, a series of Vision Edge marketing podcasts dedicated to helping you use data, analytics, process, and measurement to create a competitive edge and a superior experience for your customers. I'm your host, Laura Patterson, President of Vision Edge Marketing. Today's episode explores the transformation of a legacy business in the fire protection industry, a sector that is highly regulated, fiercely competitive, and faces ongoing price pressure and low barriers to entry. Perhaps some of you can relate. This is also an industry where many companies experience long periods of stagnant growth. It's not because demand disappears, but because differentiation erodes and internal complexity quietly increases. Our conversation today is with Shawn Mullen, President and Chief Energy Officer at Protex Central. The company has been serving mission-critical facilities for 60 years, and when Shawn took the helm in 2017, the company's revenue trajectory was flat. Essentially, as Shawn and I talked about, a parked car in an industry where standing still means falling behind. What's especially interesting is that the market itself was growing, yet Protex Central wasn't. The gap between market opportunity and company performance became the catalyst for change. So let's fast forward to this year where revenues have doubled, margins are up, and project overruns are down. And let's find out how Shawn accomplished these results. Shawn, welcome to What's Your Edge?
Oh my gosh. Laura, thank you for the opportunity to visit with you and your listeners today.
Oh, so delighted to have you. So let's begin by framing the fire protection industry. The U.S. fire protection system market is set to grow this is in U.S. dollars, from $24.94 billion, yes, people, billion in 2024 to, by 2030, $32.26 billion. That's a compounded average growth rate of 3.6%. And even so, even with this growth, this is considered an established industry that is marked by intense competition, thin margins, and constant regulatory scrutiny. The combination often creates a false sense of momentum where the market grows, but individual companies struggle to translate that growth into improved performance.
Mhm.
So, Shawn, when you took over Protex Central in 2017, what did you see as the biggest challenges? And was there a specific moment or insight that made you realize the company needed a fundamentally new approach?
Uh, Gosh, Laura, um, I would have to say this. When I bought the company, I had been with it for 32 years. And internally, we all knew that sales was the biggest challenge. But no one on our leadership team, at least at that time, had a solution to move us forward. For too long, our corporate mindset was we just wanted what we got instead of going out and getting what we wanted. And at that time, I didn't know how I was going to reverse that mindset. But I knew this. I must get outside of my echo chamber and expose myself um, to other business professionals. And so I joined an executive coaching and peer-to-peer advisory group, and I threw myself into it with all that I had. I took advantage of guest speakers, meeting and conversing with other local business owners, and working with a very talented business coach. And the cumulative effect of being a part of that group was an understanding that it was me, the chief energy officer of Protex Central, who had to change first. And I had to change first before I could ask anyone on our team to change. And honestly, it didn't happen overnight. In fact, it took me almost 4 years to really get into the groove of working with my coach and asking myself the very hard questions that I knew had to be asked, and then I had to wrestle with those answers. And so it was a process and not an event.
Yes, most often all transformations are really a process.
Yeah, they
And
are.
I know that one of the first moves you took was to analyze the attributes of successful versus non-successful customers. And this is the kind of customer segmentation that's really essential for sustainable growth. We often work with our customers to help them profile their best customers and then
Mhm.
to use those insights to shape acquisition and retention strategies. Many organizations kind of believe that growth means more customers, but sometimes in reality, what it really means is the right customers and the discipline to say no to the wrong
Mm,
ones.
yeah.
So you concluded that to grow, Protex Central needed more of the right customers and a better process to acquire them. Can you kind of share with us how you approach the analysis? Then, other than revenue, what were some of the key attributes of a successful customer? And was there anything in the data that surprised you or challenged long held assumptions about who your best customers really were?
Wow. What a great observation, Laura. You're spot on. Um, in all honesty, we did. We did have to triage our customer base, and we had to determine those qualities of our best customers. And what we found um, was that our best customers were not necessarily our largest revenue volume customers, but rather um, they had attributes that were common across all verticals, any type of systems that we did, and services that we offered. Um, things like longevity of relationship, a trusted communication style between their team and our team, right?
Mhm.
A designated internal champion for the fire, life safety, security systems that we provided, as well as an expressed interest at a corporate recognition level of keeping their employees, their properties, and their processes safe. And I might add, lastly, um, we had to determine if our value proposition fit within their budget and their expectations. So again, this didn't happen overnight. I said that before. It didn't happen overnight, and it hasn't stopped. In fact, that discipline of triage continues. We are continuously looking at our customer base to determine those best customers. Um, oh, I should say this. Uh, our good customers always pay on time.
Yes, that's we too are very blessed with great customers, many of them with similar attributes, and we are always feel blessed and grateful for customers who do pay on time. So
Yes.
I imagine there were a lot of implications to the company once you identified the customers you wanted to serve, including like how to market to them and how to sell to them.
Yep.
Process mapping, provides clarity. It helps uncover inefficiencies. It enables organizations to optimize for performance and
Mhm.
operational excellence.
Yeah.
In our experience, unclear or inconsistent processes often show up as margin leakage or project overruns, something you had mentioned was a challenge
Yes,
early on,
it
and
was.
and frustrated teams long before leaders recognize process as the root cause. What were the most significant changes you made to your business processes, and how did process mapping help you drive measurable improvements?
Oh, another keen observation, Laura. To be fair, at the time, our process mapping uh, was more like Crayola crayons in a Big Chief tablet, rather than looking at Chat GPT or Grok or something like that. It was old school for sure. Um, the key benefit that we were able to see were gaps, not only in our sales process, but in other areas of our business, engineering, sales ordering, pre-engineering, installation, review processes. And those gaps now have shrunk, and they have, in many cases, have been eliminated. But the mindset is this, and yes, I know I keep coming back to this, but the mindset has changed For every touch point within our organization, the change has been this. And what I am doing today going to help us want what we get, or are we just going to, get what we want? And that transformation has been very significant for me and our company. So I believe that my role as a leader is to reinforce and champion and recognize that mindset at every opportunity, at every touch point within our organization.
Yeah, I think it's really great that you recognize, and I do too, as a leader of our firm, that our job is to also, reinforce and be a champion, right? And
Yeah,
bring the right mindset, to the table, to the game.
yeah,
So as you transformed your customer base and operations, you also recrafted your marketing messaging. This is
yeah,
one of my favorite parts of the conversation now.
yeah, yeah,
So, consistency and clarity are critical. And from our experience, we have found that a well articulated positioning and messaging strategy elevates growth and creates a competitive advantage by ensuring that every touch point
yeah,
communicates value.
yeah,
Messaging, it's not only about external communication, it's a strategic alignment tool that influences, the conversations that your salespeople have with prospects and customers. It helps with setting customer expectations and internal decision making.
yeah.
Shawn, how did you approach this messaging overhaul, and what changes made the biggest impact on how Protex Central is perceived today?
Wow, you drive to the heart of something that keeps me up at night. And, you know, um, and that is, are we at Protex really consistent across all of our different touch points with this message? And I fancy myself as one who has articulated in any number of inflection points within our company that I sense that we're delivering on that consistency of execution and message. But, you know, in all fairness, without some type of sterile and objective measuring tool, I really can't be sure. But maybe it's part faith, maybe maybe it's part hope. But given that we have a very, very low attrition rate compared to our industry, my sense is that we're making it happen.
Wonderful, and we can come back to that conversation about a measuring tool. But what I want to talk about is something that you invested heavily in, which was sales training and playbooks.
Yeah,
We often say, that a powerful sales playbook is more than a script.
yeah,
Although I know scripts are helpful,
yeah.
but playbooks are an alignment tool that ensures everyone is clear on the process, the value proposition, and the customer journey. For many sales teams, adopting a playbook requires unlearning habits that once worked but no
Mhm.
longer support the growth. So, can you briefly walk us through? And I know this was a long undertaking, and we won't do it justice in this conversation, but if you can briefly walk us through how you built and implemented your sales playbook, what were the most important elements, and how did it change your team's performance? And what was the most difficult shift for the sales team to make?
Well, first of all, our playbook is always in flux, to your point. We have intentionally developed it, to be a dynamic document that is responsive to changes in the marketplace, the regulatory environment, because we are in the fire industry, we're heavily regulated, and other outside dynamics that are at play. But to your question, I think the difficult shift for our sales team, and I would have to say that it's the discipline on those daily key performance indicators was the biggest challenge. I often say every crusade needs a crusader, and I saw it as my responsibility to be that crusader. And so phone calls, emails, texts, messages, and the like were and continue to be part of the key performance indicators in our effort and my challenge to work on the business, on the business rather than in the business. And I think that's a key differentiation. I can't do it for my team, but I can work on the business and not necessarily in it.
I think this is a challenge for a lot of us at the helm of a
Yes.
company, is to work
Yeah.
on the business rather than in the business. And
Yeah.
It's, that's a conversation I know we've had, and it's not the only, and a conversation I've had with other CEOs.
Yeah.
So, Shawn, in industries like yours, there is the ever-present risk of becoming a commodity because it can be difficult for customers to distinguish your offering from others who make many of the same claims. In this situation, price often becomes the only differentiator, and then there's a race to the bottom. When that, yeah,
Yeah.
I know we can both relate. When
Uh,
that happens, when that happens, growth slows, margins erode, and customer relationships kind of become more transactional rather than strategic. How did you ensure Protex Central avoided this trap? And what role did customer service play in setting you apart?
well, once again, you're hitting the nail on the head. Creating the differentiation is the challenge.
Yeah.
Um, we really had to understand our value proposition to the customer. Um, and what established was, and what came through was, we're local. We're thought leaders in the industry, and we are reliable. In fact, as consolidation in our industry has accelerated, what has happened is we have emphasized that we have local ownership, that we're involved in the community, and we as a company want to see the community succeed and prosper. And in my opinion, and it's just something that outside investors in this industry really can't capitalize on. And so we've tried to highlight that as a true differentiator in a very competitive marketplace.
Good for you. I agree. And no, I really do believe that was a terrific pivotal move. And one of the key moves you also made is moving your technical talent closer to customers.
Yeah.
We believe that service quality is not an afterthought.
No.
Yeah, that it can serve as a really key, as a key
Yeah.
differentiator, a valuable differentiator.
Yeah.
And we have found that organizations that empower their technical teams, and a lot of our customers are in industries where there are extensive technical teams, that when they engage directly with customers, they can see faster problem resolution, deeper relationships, and greater loyalty. And this kind of proximity often turns service interactions into opportunities for insight, trust building, and long-term value creation. How has
Yeah.
this shift impacted your customer relationships and service outcomes?
Well, first and foremost, total transparency. It didn't happen overnight. Okay. Um, but I would say this, it was an intentional effort on the part of every member of our team. And yes, I had to articulate it. But secondarily, I had to live it out. Often that means getting up at 2 a.m. and answering that phone call from a customer who's not happy. And I mean, who wants to leave the comfort and warmth of their bed to head out to a service call at what? Oh, dark 30 is what.
Especially in the middle of winter in
Oh
the
my God.
Midwest.
Yes, that's so true. But that's what our team does. That's what I have tried to elevate when lives and property and processes are on the line. And I think that that's part of how our team lives out our values and mission as to what we do. So here's the lesson learned, okay? The customers appreciate the effort that it takes, and they value that effort and time when it comes to protecting lives, property, and processes. And it all kind of circles back to what makes the best customer. They call us at 2 a.m. You bet they want us to respond, but we're going to be there.
Yes, and you are, as you said, you are protecting lives. The systems you put in place,
That's
they
correct.
make a difference.
Yeah.
So let's go back to one of my favorite topics, performance management and metrics. I know we touched on that
Oh, yeah.
earlier, but we
Yep.
can't leave this conversation without talking about that a bit more. Metrics shape behavior,
Yep.
and what leaders choose to measure determines what teams prioritize and improve and ultimately deliver.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the key metrics you track today and how they're different from the ones you measured back in 2017, and which metrics have had the biggest impact on your decision making and behavior across the organization.
Wow. Another keen insight. I would say this, as far as key metrics are concerned, we transitioned into a process that measured key performance indicators. And we're measuring numbers such as number of prospecting calls made, number of targeted customer calls made. In others, are we reaching out to our existing customers? And further, the number of post-service calls made. You call us out to fix your system, we follow up. Did it make sense? Did we service your needs and get you back up and running? And we didn't rely on a bot to answer these questions. We've established internal tracking systems through our CRM that we modified and designed as so that we, as live human beings, could make those calls and those touches and those inflection points. So we believe that the real difference has been in establishing and furthering those long-term relationships through that effort.
Wonderful. And I really commend what you and your team are doing, and it does make a difference in establishing long-term relationships.
It does.
Okay. One of the things our community appreciates is hearing about lessons learned. Might as well not repeat other people's mistakes. And that's an important and valuable part of this show is to help people avoid those pitfalls. So, Shawn, what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned on your journey? And looking back, was there anything you initially underestimated or would approach differently today? And what advice would you offer to other leaders in established, highly competitive industries who want to drive meaningful change?
Laura, 41 years in the business, I would have to say that as a leader, the biggest lesson learned was to be present. In other words, you just can't dictate a direction. My gosh, and then expect it to happen. You have to be dedicated to seeing it through, and that means being there for your team and shoulder to shoulder with them when they make the call or the follow-up call. You've got to be there for them, and it means role-playing conversations before they happen, and critiquing them both before they happen and after they happen, and helping them understand their lessons learned. And finally, it means assuring your team that 24/7, 365, you as the leader are going to be there to support them and encourage them in their efforts to move your organization to the next level.
Shawn, I am a big fan of role playing, and I think it is a valuable exercise. And I hope those of members of our community listening use role playing to help their organizations. I really appreciate you being with us and sharing your journey. The story of your company is a testament to the power of disciplined process, customer centricity, and the courage to challenge the status quo, because to your point, you'd been in the business a long time before taking the helm. And it would have been easy just to keep on doing what you've been doing. So for those listening, growth doesn't come from random acts. It comes from deliberate choices about customers, processes, and how value is delivered. And if you're ready and would like to, let's have a conversation about how to move beyond commoditization and operationalize sustainable growth. Thanks for being with us, Shawn.
Laura, it's been my pleasure, and all the best to you and your listeners in 26.
Thank you. Thank you for being a part of our community. We hope you found this episode of What's Your Edge helpful. Since 1999, Vision Edge Marketing has been helping our customers eliminate random acts, apply data, analytics, process, and measurement to accelerate growth, create customer value, and improve performance. We always welcome hearing from you.